Do this. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to the Incline. This is Kevin Klein here. I'm fired up. We have a great show today. We're going to start off with an interview. We're joined by Jimmy Nelson today on the Incline, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have him. Jimmy, how's spring training going? How you doing today?
It's going well, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. We're very excited. We don't get too many Dodgers pitchers on, so this is quite an exciting opportunity for us as well. But so we'll start off with this. The Dodgers did sign you last season. Unfortunately, injuries happened and it didn't go your way. But thankfully, they brought you back this season. So we wanted to know kind of if you've spoken to Dave Roberts or Mark Pryor and if they've kind of told you what your role is going to be this season.
Yeah, I was more than happy to come back, have the opportunity to come back. I definitely feel like this is where I want to be and need to be. Everything here is first class. So I know that they're going to help me stay healthy, feeling great right now coming into it, the best I've felt in years. But I think, I don't really know. We'll kind of figure out as we go,
Yeah.
It's kind of fluid, really, and I'm completely cool with that. I just want an opportunity, and I'm just thankful and grateful to be healthy right now and have a shot. I know there's a lot of guys out there that are still looking for jobs. So
absolutely. We've seen what you can do. So we're very excited to have you in the Dodgers organization. I also wanted to ask, you pitched a number of years for the Brewers. Is the environment, atmosphere in the Dodgers camp any different mentality,
It's just, it's more magnified, and obviously it's staffed a little different, small market, big market, you have a lot more staffed, and it's just, I thought it was really cool since day one coming over how, you got your strength staff, your pitching, your coaching staff, your strength staff, your training staff, and everybody's it's just like one cohesive unit. You got strength conditioning guys that are out there helping you do work on the mound with mechanics just as much as you do a pitching coach. So it's really cool how everything's kind of like interchangeable, and it kind of really helps because it's like, in the weight room or the training room, the things you're working on are the same things that are going to help you be productive, healthy, or move the right way on the mound or hitting or throwing or whatever. So it's just really cool how the whole machine works and how everything works together so well.
That's awesome to hear. And then I got one more quick question, then I'll pass it off to David. So are there any pitchers with the Dodgers right now that you've been working with closely since your time as a Dodger? And I also wanted to know if you could add to that, you were a teammate with Corey Knebel, who we just acquired this offseason. Wanted to know a little insight to maybe what kind of personality he's like or the mentality he brings.
Corey's a good dude. I knew since day one, he was going to be a good fit over here. He's good people, and he's coming off of an injury too. He's had a full year under his belt, I think. So, and there's already been things from the jump that, like I said, from the strength side, in the weight room or just the way that you're moving or training room, whatever, they address things mechanically that they see. So the Dodgers do a really good job of being able to break things down that they see from the past, and maybe how you drifted away from some things mechanically and could have caused either injury or could have caused a change in production or your overall stuff. So they're already working with Corey on some stuff, and he's bought in 100%. And I knew he would. It's funny actually, having lunch and stuff with him sometimes, and he's in the locker next to me, hearing him say some of the things he's saying about his time here so far, even though it's only been a week or two, and the things that he's saying about the organization and the way things are going, it's some of the same things that I was saying last year when I was being introduced. So it's really cool to see that. And, it just shows how great everything works together. And I think he's going to have a big year. I think they're going to help him, get back to the form he had, and he's going to be just as good, if not better.
Well, it's great to hear that you're healthy. You've had several phenomenal years in Milwaukee, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you can do in Dodger Blue. My first question is, what's it like, being around such a talented group of pitchers? You got Clayton Kershaw, who's obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer, and then you got veterans like Price, and you have guys like Urias and May and Gonsolin, and now you got Trevor Bauer in there. So does being around, guys like that, does that fuel your competitiveness? Is that like, do you work off of these guys? What's it like being in such a talented?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just cool company to be around, even if like just during stretch or in the locker room or weight room or whatever, just being around those guys, seeing how they carry themselves, and just not being scared to ask those guys questions and feeding off their experience, especially guys like, David and Kirsch. Like, I mean, those guys that have been in the year and in the big leagues for 10 plus years, I mean, they have a lot of knowledge of a lot of different things. So, just trying to hang around those guys and kind of pick up on some of their habits, so to speak. And I mean, it's pretty fun just to be around. And obviously I feel like this team, everybody realizes like, we've got a lot of guys, we got a lot of, I mean, we got probably 2 rosters full of big league talent.
Yeah.
So it's like really, and I think the way that everybody's going to perform to their best is like, you don't feel any pressure. You don't feel any like crazy expectation or, external pressure to perform, because there's like 1 through 9, the lineup's ridiculous. And then same thing with like the pitching staff. I mean, bullpen's ridiculous. And so is the starting rotation. So it's like, it's not like a team where there's like 3 or 4 guys that have to carry the team that feel like they have to do it every single day. So being able to kind of relax and kind of know that you have support, like you actually end up in turn start playing and performing better. So I don't know if it's necessarily like one person pushing another person to be more competitive or produce. It's more of like a thing that like you can like just mentally relax and like let the game come to you, or like slow the game down, so to speak, and not put as much pressure on yourself, which allows you just to like naturally perform. So that's kind of how I feel like it looks from the outside looking in, like, oh, they're pushing each other, and yeah, you do learn things from other guys, and there is like friendly competitions, and but you're only competing against yourself. You're not really competing against a bunch of other guys. And so it's just, like I said, mainly like a mental thing to where you can just kind of relax, take care of your business. You don't feel like you have to do certain things, and the game starts coming to you, and that's when it becomes fun.
Right on. So my next question would be, I know it's only been a week, but what, this Dodgers, especially the farm system and these young guys are super, super talented. So has anyone jumped off the page just in a week from you? Like who's impressed you so far?
Well, like pitchers
Yeah,
wise?
pitchers, anyone.
Oh man. I mean, everybody's been throwing it well already. We've had the first couple of days of live BPs here. And I mean, you're hearing great feedback from a lot of guys. I mean, you got D-May throwing 101 already. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, they're talking about DeGrom in New York throwing 99. Well, D-May like one up them,
Yeah.
That's just crazy to me. But I mean, there's a lot of studs. I mean, it's hard not to be impressed by them all.
For sure. So, okay, my last one's kind of a silly one. I know you've only been around the team for a week, but you were around a little bit last year, and you know some of the guys. Who is the funniest player in the clubhouse?
Oh man, I don't know. I'll have to think on it.
Okay.
I'll have to think on it and get back to you.
All right, and I'm a huge Blake Trinan guy, so I a little backstory. I wrote an article before the Dodgers signed him, basically pounding my fists on the table for the Dodgers to sign him because I'm a huge believer in him, and obviously that worked. So just one quick question on him. He's very tough to read from the outside. You don't get a lot from him as a fan watching him. So give me a little insight into the mind of Blake Trinan.
I mean, yeah, Blake's a good dude. I mean, he's definitely a guy that is very engaging. So he's like always talking about things, whether it's like pitching or so he's definitely a huge help to a lot of guys. And I kind of had a vibe like whenever we got Corey, I was like, man, I bet you Blake and Corey are going to be throwing partners. Like those guys are going to hit it off because very, very similar like personality types, good dudes. And just, so sure enough, they're throwing partners already. And no, like Blake's a good dude to have. And I mean, he's disgusting. He's nasty too.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the guys that the Dodgers do a good job. Like they bring this guy in that had a bad year, and they address like a couple things mechanically, and he, figures it back out, and now he's locked back in, and so that's what they do a really good job of that here, and like just attacking that from all angles. I mean, so it's we're glad to have Blake. He's a good one to be a fan of.
Yeah.
All right, I have one final question for you. Do you remember what happened on June 2nd, 2017?
Was it Father's Day? Was it the CG?
Honestly, I don't remember that part. Probably it couldn't be though if it was June 2nd.
No.
All right, I'll tell you then. I'll give you a hint though. You were facing the Dodgers that day. You were going toe to toe with Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, that was one of the best games of my career. Yeah.
I remember watching that game, and I was so impressed.
Yeah, and even Corey pitched in that game.
He did. I looked that up. I wasn't going to bring it up because I think he gave up a run after. But
yeah,
you went 8 shutout innings, and you struck out 11 Dodgers. Didn't walk anyone.
Yeah, no, that was a good game. I was in a good stretch right there. I had a few bad years in Milwaukee, and I was battling through a lot of things, trying to figure a lot of things out. Went through a lot of mental stuff too, and finally was able to put it together in 17, and was able to just like hold on to that and consistently know what that was like from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint. And that Dodgers game, I'm pretty sure, was in like the middle of like a 3 or 4 game stretch that I had that was really good. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to, getting back to that type of form.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. It's really good to hear that you're healthy.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
We're rooting for you, definitely. I remember watching that game. I had already known who you were, but I'm pretty sure you were on my fantasy team that year. And if it helps, you helped me win the championship.
Yeah. No, I was pumped. I remember it was like the 8th inning, and it was like 1-0 game. It was like guy on third. I got the double play, man. That was pumped. That was one of the most like pumped I've been for a game, like that situation right there. Yeah, that was definitely a memorable one.
Yeah, that was impressive for sure. Well, Jimmy, we just want to thank you for coming on the Incline today. We're definitely rooting for you, and we can't wait to see you pitch this spring training and hopefully with the big club later this season.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
Give our best to Josiah Gray, who came on the show a little bit ago.
Nice.
Yeah, give our best to him, and tell Blake Trinan to respond to my IG message. He responded to Twitter, but then he got rid of his Twitter, and he said he would come on, and now I haven't heard from him. So give him an earful for me, please.
All right, I will.
All right, thanks, Jimmy. We really appreciate it.
No problem. See you, fellas.
Have a good one.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah, so that was a really awesome interview we just had with Jimmy Nelson. David, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, it's super nice to see that he's healthy and feeling good again. If he can get that 2017 form back, the Dodgers just will have another weapon in the starting rotation or the bullpen. This super cool dude, very humble and honest about where he's at and his teammates and how the Dodgers, the one thing that struck me from that interview is just another person just vouching at how great the Dodgers organization is. He's like he said, Corey Knebel has only been there 1 week and Corey's already raving about how the Dodgers just do it perfectly. So I think that's what stuck out to me, but Jimmy's a super cool guy.
Yeah. So this is an exciting time, especially because we got our first spring training game on Sunday. And normally, I kind of go into spring training, it's whatever. I like it, but I'm actually really excited for this year more than in years past. I don't know if it's because the Dodgers are reigning champions, but I think we have a number of awesome storylines that we're going to talk about. But Jake Reiner, how's it going?
Good, man. Good to see you guys again. The Jimmy Nelson interview, honestly, for me looking at this Dodgers rotation, and we'll get into it a little bit, they understand that they know they're going to need every arm possible. So they've built up, 7-8 guys that they know that can start on any given day. And with injuries, with guys' age, if you want to give a guy, a rest, to skip a start or whatever they need to do, they're going to have to rely on everyone. And so the Dodgers have done a nice job creating this depth. But, I'm excited too for spring training. I think this is really exciting. I think being the reigning champs has a lot to do with it. I also think not really worrying about this team has a lot to do with it as well. We know that this team is about as, valued as it should be. It's not overvalued. It's not undervalued. It's right where it needs to be. They are the cream of the crop in Major League Baseball. They are the team to beat. And a bunch of the storylines that we're following throughout spring training are just fun storylines. It's not so much, like we don't have a left fielder, or like we're worried about the bullpen. Yeah, the offense is good, but the pitching is bad. No, every single aspect of this team is good, and that's why it's exciting to be a Dodgers fan.
Yeah, so let's get into this right now. First noteworthy thing, the Dodgers play the Oakland Athletics on Sunday, and they're going to start with Mike Kickham, a journeyman left-handed pitcher. He's 32. He signed with the Dodgers in January. I mean, if we're being a realist here, I don't expect a whole lot out of him. He does have some velocity in his fastball, but let's get into the exciting stuff. Justin Turner is back. The team announced he signed a 2-year deal. If you look at the pictures of him standing next to teammates, he's looking really thin. I don't know if he's been hanging out with Tyler White or the Tom Brady diet. But David, what are your thoughts on Turner and just how he's looking?
There was a time in the offseason when a lot of Dodgers fans online were calling, not a lot, but some were calling Turner maybe washed up or old or not, can't stay healthy. And I think he saw that. And I think he wanted to prove to maybe just himself or anyone that no, he's not washed up. He's not old. Maybe he's 36, but he's not old in terms of baseball. And he looks as good as I've seen him as a Dodger physically. This is, I've always been a Turner fan. I wanted him back from day one. I predicted he would be back from day one. I basically wagered the family farm he would be back on day one. But he looks great. Everybody looks great. But another thing to keep in mind is don't buy into the best shape of my life comments from Dave Roberts. He's going to say that no matter what. Look at it for yourself. Let these guys play out, and it's going to be an exciting spring.
Yeah, he passes the eye test for sure. I know that, Dave Roberts and whoever else you ask, they're going to say that they're in the best shape of their lives, but we know what we see. And I agree. Looking at those pictures of Justin Turner, he looks toned. He looks in shape. Hopefully he can stay on the field and stay healthy. We don't need him to play 162. We have enough depth on this team to play third base, whether it's Chris Taylor or Edwin Rios or Matt Beatty or even Max Muncy. We can move over there. So they're not going to need him to play the full 162. And that's why this team is so stacked, is because you can allow for Justin Turner to have a few days off here and there, and you're not going to really lose that much of a step.
Yeah, Jake, you said on the field, and one of the biggest motivations for Justin Turner that he said this go around to repeat as World Series champions is he wants to be on the field this time when they're hoisting up the trophy, because it just sucks that moment got taken away from him. So I love that this team as a whole, they're kind of using that as their overall motivation to repeat, get that proper parade and all that. But let's talk about Max Muncy. I know you guys also followed it. His comments on MLB trying to deaden the ball up a little bit. So what were your takeaways on that?
Yeah, here's my take. Enough with the ball. Pick one. I don't care which one. If you're going to juice it up, juice it up. If you're going to deaden it. But you can't keep going flip-flop. This is not how this works. I'm tired of this ball debate. Again, like I said, I don't care which ball you use. If you're gonna juice it up, go ahead. The one thing I can't stand is what they did in 2019 is have a ball during the regular season and then they deadened it before the playoffs. Obviously, they haven't necessarily admitted this per se full on, but it was basically implied, and that's not okay. It's simply not.
They did the opposite in 2017. The ball, they actually juiced it up a little bit.
Exactly. So you got to just pick one. It's plain and simple. I've had enough. Pick a ball.
I think it's worth mentioning Muncy's full statement on this because it is really interesting. He said, quote, "Does them deadening it mean the pitchers don't throw 100 miles per hour also?" That was my only question. I feel like the whole game is kind of triggered against the offense, and now they're taking the one sole advantage that we have. Maybe or maybe not, the ball was a little bit juiced. They obviously never confirmed that. Them saying they're deadening the ball was kind of heartbreaking, is what Max Muncy said. And yeah, I agree. It's hard enough to hit the ball when these guys are throwing 100, 102 miles an hour. And that is the advantage to hitting the ball, to focus on launch angle and try to hit the ball out of the park. I guess what Major League Baseball is trying to do, they're so concerned with pace of play. They want the ball to be put in play more often. And that's why they are, making it so the ball doesn't, fly out of the stadium, that there's more opportunity for doubles and triples. But the problem is that teams in front offices don't value batting average, doubles and triples. They value home runs.
Yep.
And so when you're evaluating a player, you're not looking at his batting average. You're looking at his on base percentage, which is one of the outcomes, right? Walk, home run, or strikeout. They don't really care that much about strikeouts. They care about walks and home runs. So you can't really, it's not really going to affect pace of play, in my opinion. It may even make the offense worse than what it is now.
Yeah, MLB's just being stupid on this. They need to do a better job of just hearing their fans out, because they seem to just be doing the opposite. But Cody Bellinger, as we all know, had off-season shoulder surgery due to, he doesn't want to blame it on Kike Hernandez, but I think that's the root of the cause.
That's exactly what happened.
That is exactly, it's video evidence.
There's no secret. That's what happened.
So Kike is no longer on the team, so we don't have to worry about that. But so far, the progress is looking good. He's on pace, if not ahead of schedule. And, do you guys think we're going to get odd year Bellinger this season? Because obviously he changed his swing up last season, and he was off to a slow start. But it's important to note, the last 20, 25 games or so, he had an OPS over 900. And then in the postseason, he really just put it all together. The big home run off Chris Martin. So Cody Bellinger proved us kind of wrong that the swing was fine.
All I'm going to say is I'm glad that Kike Hernandez tied up that game in Game 7 of the NLCS. Otherwise, I would have been really upset with him after Cody Bellinger hit that home run and he dislocated his shoulder. But, all right, fine. We're not going to – he didn't mean to injure his own teammate. But I think what's telling, because Bellinger spoke with the media the other day, he said that he expects to be in the opening day lineup, which is good. He is progressing further than he expected to. And that if it comes to it where he doesn't feel 100%, or he feels like he can only, bat but can't play the field, he's not going to go out there and play the field. So, and again, it comes down to this idea with this team where we're not so heavily reliant on Cody Bellinger. We would obviously benefit from him performing and being in the middle of that lineup for sure. But this offense is so stacked that you could allow Cody Bellinger the time he needs to heal to 100% and not lose a step without him, which I think is great. I think the Dodgers should be taking as long of time as they need, and Cody Bellinger should take as long of a time he needs to recover. Don't rush it back. We have the luxury to fill in that gap. Throw Chris Taylor out there and you're fine.
I'm expecting big things from Cody Bellinger. I am. The main reason is this year they are going to allow in-game video use. They did not do it in 2020. It's going to be modified, so they're going to black out the catcher's signs on the video, thanks to the Astros and the Red Sox. But Cody Bellinger is going to have a big season. I'm calling it now. This dude is, he'll get healthy. He'll get healthy in the first couple weeks. Like Jake said, maybe don't rush him into it. Maybe give him some extra off days. But I'm telling you, the video factor is going to be huge for Cody Bellinger. It is. I expect not quite maybe 2019 NL MVP numbers, but not too far off at all.
Yeah, of course, the media had to ask Corey Seager what the status was on his contract extension, and Corey Seager was pretty blunt. He said he doesn't want to talk about free agency. His focus right now is on this upcoming season, and he just added that he doesn't want this to be a distraction. With Seager being a Scott Boras client, I honestly don't know if we're going to see an extension. I think Seager is in for a monster year. There's 5 different projections on Fangraphs where they got Seager pegged at 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 100 runs scored, 350 on base. And if he can put up those type of numbers, then his best bet is to go into free agency, because that dude is about to be paid.
Yeah, Seager does not elaborate on a lot. So I didn't expect him to go into all of his thoughts and feelings about playing during a contract year. But I think the only thing that is, you can knock against Seager is the fact that he has had some trouble staying on the field. If he's healthy, and we saw it last year, and we definitely saw it in the playoffs. If he's healthy, he's the best shortstop in baseball. But his problem is staying healthy. So I hope that he can maintain the health that he had last year. It was sort of like a secondary breakout year for him. Obviously, he came on the scene and won NL Rookie of the Year in 2016, and then in 2018 he had that those terrible injuries, and he forced us to trade for Manny Machado. And then 2019 was a down year for him, coming back from those injuries. And then 2020 was like an unbelievable season for him, historic. And for him to just absolutely tear through the best of the best in baseball in the postseason was a thing of beauty to watch. And yeah, if Seager's healthy, he's going to crush it. That's the only thing that plays against him ever, I think.
Guys,
that 2021 shortstop class is something else. I mean, this is historic class.
Well, guys, definitely talented when he's having a down year in 2019 and still leads the league in doubles hit.
Yeah, he can hit doubles in his sleep.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys, who are some hitters that are on your guys' radar that you feel maybe they're on the brink of making the roster? They're on the roster right now. They need to prove themselves. Just like a couple hitters who need to have a good spring training.
He's going to make the roster, but my guy to watch is Edwin Rios. There's going to be some opportunities. Turner's not going to play necessarily every single day. They're going to win 100 games. So they're not going to just throw these stars, especially the older ones, in every single day. Rios is going to get some opportunities. And I think we saw what he can do with the power. I think his home run to at bat ratio is either first or second in MLB history at this point in his career. But I'm more interested in seeing him drive the ball in the gaps. I'd like to see him get some doubles, get on base, and see what he can do over a larger sample size of at bats. I think his defense is solid. I would like to see how that plays out in spring training as well. But Rios is my guy to watch as not someone who's going to start necessarily, but someone who's going to be maybe the guy off the bench.
Rios is jacked, by the way.
He is.
He put on some muscle.
Yeah, he did, and that's one of the best swings in baseball. I mean, if you've ever seen Edwin Rios connect with the baseball, it's pretty gorgeous. Another guy that I'm watching is Matt Beatty. I think that Beatty kind of struggled last year. He didn't really get as much playing time as he did in 2019. So looking for him to be, to have a nice spring. I think that there are a couple of guys that sort of need to, prove themselves, if you will, during this spring. Matt Beatty being one of them, Gavin Lux being another. Dave Roberts was talking about how Gavin Lux is not guaranteed to be the starting second baseman, even though we kind of project him to be. He still needs to perform well in spring. And last season, it was kind of wonky. He didn't really, get that much of an opportunity, but he did struggle, not only offensively, but defensively in those intra-squad games. So I'm really looking for Gavin Lux to kind of, own that position and take it over. And I'm also looking forward to the Dodgers saying, you know what, we've held on to you for so long. We think you're ready, and we want to give you this opportunity and see what you can do with it. And then the other player, just very quickly, is Zach Mckinstry. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he kind of fills that Kike Hernandez role. We know that he is versatile. He can play all over the field. We know that he's been talking to Chris Taylor and Justin Turner and Max Muncy, sort of the older veteran guys, to kind of get, his, pick their brains as to how to operate, and especially, CT3, because he's moving into the pretty much the same role that CT3 it has right now. So I'm really excited to watch Zach Mckinstry in spring.
Yeah, I'm excited about McKinstry.
How about the mullet? How about the mullet too? He's got some lettuce back there. Looks like a hockey player.
I think he's in for a pretty big role with the Dodgers. And yeah, that versatility you mentioned is very key. He can play all over the field. So I think he's going to steal the job for Matt Beatty. But one deep dive that I'm really interested in seeing is Matt Davidson. Now, he hasn't really performed the last couple of seasons, but he's still only age 29. In 2017, 2016, whatever those years were with the White Sox, one year he belted 26, 28 home runs. He crushed his left-handed pitchings. And that following year, he had 20 home runs. Then he kind of dropped off. But if there's a team that could find hidden gems, it's the Dodgers. And this guy has mashed lefties in the past. And what's kind of interesting with Davidson is they're trying to turn him into like a two-way player. So I don't know if it's the Brett Eibner effect. I know it didn't work out with Eibner. He ended up having to get Tommy John surgery due to it. But, we're going to see, unless the DH gets added last second, we might see some hitters throw this season. And maybe it's not this season, but Davidson could have like a Max Muncy resurgence out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and then the other
Sheldon Noisy too.
Yeah, and that's my other guy, Sheldon Noisy. I didn't know who he was when they first acquired him, but then I looked into who this player is. I'm really excited. We know that Friedman had been looking for another right-handed bat, and with Kike gone in free agency, now you can plug in Noisy. I think he's going to make the roster at some point and play a number of games at third base, if not somewhere else in the infield. This guy's he raked in the minor leagues, and I think he's got some tremendous upside. And, when you mention like guys like Turner, maybe Bellinger, they need to sit them it's a long season. Noisy could be the next Chris Taylor, Kike, and just shine as a Dodger. So let's talk about some pitchers now. Obviously, we heard Jimmy Nelson earlier. He's going to be in the mix of things, but there are 8 starters apparently in the mix. This is probably the most depth I've ever seen in the Dodgers rotation. So just some guys that you're looking at. I'll start with Julio Urias. Apparently, he is the one that's in the best shape of his life. And I know some people want to have him in the bullpen, but I think that's just a waste of talent. This is the season where I think Urias is potentially a Cy Young breakout candidate. He's only 24. He absolutely shined in the postseason. He wasn't just getting 3-out saves. He was mowing down guys, getting 9 outs. And he was at one point the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball. I think this is a big season for Urias, and I would consider him a lock unless something crazy happens in that rotation.
Yeah, I mean, Julio's going to be the guy. We've heard it time and time again, training wheels. No more. We talked about this last year. It was time to unload the training wheels, and look what happened. Roberts did it. And he let him go in the World Series. He let him go in the NLCS. He let him go against the Padres, and it worked out. So I think this is his first full chance to be like, "Yep, you're in the rotation. You're a starter," and it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with May and Gonsolin. Hopefully, a 6-man rotation, because I'd love to see Dustin May get consistent starts. But Julio has earned his place. He's put in the work. He's put in the time. He's been in the organization for a long time. He's earned his spot.
And to that point, I think last year we were talking about how the Dodgers may have had too many starters and we didn't know if they were going to get their opportunities. And then look what happened. I mean, you had Kershaw go down with an injury. You had Walker Buehler had some blister issues. David Price opted out. So they really truly need all of those arms, and they're all going to make starts. Whether it's, Dustin May, Jimmy Nelson, if he's healthy, Tony Gonsolin, those guys are going to make starts, because who knows how Kershaw is going to be this season? Who knows if Walker Buehler will develop those blisters again? David Price is another veteran pitcher. What does he have left in the tank? All those guys are going to get starts. And I think come playoff time, because the Dodgers are going to make the playoffs, then you can decide whether or not you want to throw Urias in the bullpen then, because he can handle it, and he's going to be your wild card, sort of your last minute kind of acquisition, if you will, right before the postseason, by sticking him in the bullpen if your top starters are Kershaw, Buehler, and Bauer, or Kershaw, Bauer, and Price. You can mix and match those guys in the postseason, have that unbelievable weapon like Urias out of the bullpen. But I would definitely not start out with Urias in the bullpen. They don't need that at this point. The bullpen is solid enough right now to give Julio the opportunity to start every 5th or every 6th day.
Agreed, 100%.
Here's the reality. They're not going to just have each of their starters go out there and throw 6 innings, 7 innings. I would be shocked if we don't see someone like David Price, who hasn't pitched in over a year, if he's not getting 4 to 5 innings, most outings to begin the season. He's an aging veteran. They're going to want to ease him back in. And I think we're going to see a number of piggyback days where we could see Tony Gonsolin start the game, maybe go 4 innings, and then they bring Dustin May out of the bullpen. Same thing could go for Jimmy Nelson. But, Trevor Bauer is probably the only guy that they're going to let him pitch as much as he wants. But even Walker Buehler, I don't expect him to go 200 innings. They don't want any of these guys to go down with injuries, because they know, as you mentioned, Jake, they were kind of straggling along to find starters in the postseason. And that's the agenda at the end of the day, to have full depth, everyone healthy, and eye on the prize.
And one more thing about that, I think the thing that the three of us really stressed when we were doing our postseason analysis was Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin had never done what they were asked to do in the postseason. They were never asked to be openers or go 1 inning or 1 to 2 innings before. So I really do like that piggyback idea, because it'll give them that experience they need to where come playoff time, we're going to need them again. And you could throw them out there if a starter, just doesn't have it that night, and you can, bring Dustin May out of the bullpen and he can give you, 3 to 4 innings out of the pen. To have that experience during the regular season is going to be huge. So I really do like that idea.
Yeah, Jimmy Nelson mentioned Dustin May. He's really impressed by him. He's throwing 101 miles an hour this spring, so he's on
spring training, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
At this point, he's, what are we going to see? 104? Like, what's the limit here? I mean, this kid's potential
is the limit.
Yeah, space, Mars, Elon Musk.
So let's talk about Trevor Bauer real quick. He hasn't been too quiet this offseason, but I'm okay with it. He got into some beef with Noah Syndergaard on Twitter, so that was a fun exchange.
Let the record state that Syndergaard started that one.
He did, and Syndergaard,
as is common when Trevor Bauer gets in a Twitter feud, he oftentimes, 99 out of 100, does not start it.
Yeah, Thor is so soft for what it's worth. But Jake, I know you have the quote by Trevor Bauer. They asked him about facing Manny Machado this upcoming season, so I was hoping you could read that real quick.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for those of you that don't know, Machado has a pretty good line against Bauer. He's 10 for 17. That's a .588 batting average, .667 on base percentage, over 1,000 slugging, over 2,000 OPS, 4 home runs, 2 doubles, 6 RBIs, and 3 strikeouts. And Bauer, when asked about this, because we know that they're going to face the Padres quite a bit, and Machado, Bauer said, "This is my time. I'll flip that script real quick."
Yeah, so you love to see the optimism right there. Also in that same interview on Sportsnet LA, Trevor Bauer acknowledged that he's about to enter his 30s, and he's very optimistic that his 30s are going to be better than his 20s. So now, given that he's wearing a Dodgers uniform, you love to see it. And guys like Clayton Kershaw calling him a genius with the baseball. So far, people were fearing that he'd be a distraction in the clubhouse, and it appears to be the complete opposite.
I mean, look, he is what he is online, but he's a nerd who loves baseball in the clubhouse, and that's all that the Dodgers really want from him. And to the point about his sort of quote unquote feud with Noah Syndergaard, I really enjoy that stuff. I think that stuff is what baseball needs in terms of trying to get that younger fan base to get involved. I think that they want to see players like that interact. They want that sort of feud going between two guys that are very outspoken on Twitter. Obviously there is a line, and Trevor has crossed that line in the past, and he knows that. Unfortunately though, there always going to be that crowd of people that will just never like him, no matter what, no matter if he apologizes, if he, sends the people he's wronged an edible arrangements. It doesn't matter. Right. They're always going to be those dissenters out there. But I think as Dodgers fans, you're rooting for the jersey, you're rooting for the team. Every time he goes out, you're a true Dodgers fan if you're rooting for the team to win. You're not if you're rooting against the guy to fail. And I think that's an important point. But obviously I as a casual observer of Trevor Bauer over the years, I wasn't okay with how he handled some of those, harassment things on Twitter. I thought he took it too far. And I think he knows that. He's acknowledged that. So hopefully moving forward, he doesn't get caught up in that again.
Yeah. Anyone is allowed to have their opinion of what they think is, not okay and okay. And if you think it's too far, then that's totally cool. But I've said this before on the podcast. I'm a Dodgers fan. I want these guys. What I care about is what these guys do on the field. Now, I still care about them, being good people to some degree, but do I care about his beliefs and political beliefs, whatever they may be? No, I just simply don't care. Anyone's allowed, just like we're allowed to not like a player. They're allowed to have their own opinions about whatever they want. So I think that's an important distinction to make. And I liked what you said. Some people are just going to hate this dude regardless. And that's fair. That's fair. But I think the majority of fans are going to care about what he does on the field. And that's a much easier way to approach being a baseball fan, in my opinion.
And look, if and I'll just say this, if the good guys on the team, quote unquote, the good guys, Justin Turner, Clayton Kershaw, all those guys that we love, if they, approve him, give him the seal of approval, that's good enough for me.
Exactly. That's what matters. If one of those guys were to come out and say, this dude sucks, we need to get this guy out, then I'm going to side with them.
Yeah.
Let's close it out with bullpen talk. And I'll start with, here we go again. Dave Roberts has named Kenley Jansen the closer. So I'll let you guys dive into that first.
I'm just going to say real quick about this. I think that with the way things are going in Major League Baseball, the closer role is sort of ceremonial at this point. I think what the Dodgers have shown, or what they showed in the postseason, is that they have a number of what they call high leverage relievers. They don't call them middle relievers or setup men or closers anymore. They're high leverage guys. They're guys that you bring in to where you need to get an out real quick. It's usually high pressure, guys on base, that sort of thing. And I think that Kenley Jansen, who has the most career saves, as for any Dodger ever, he's earned the right to be the closer, just like Clayton Kershaw's earned the right to be the opening day starter. Now, are you saying that Kershaw is your ace by saying he's the opening day starter? No, because there are a number of pitchers on the Dodgers staff right now that may be better than Kershaw. Trevor Bauer may be better than Kershaw at this point, but you got to understand that Kershaw has been in the league for, 13 years. So it's more of a ceremonial thing. I think when it gets down to it, and Dave Roberts showed that in the postseason, he's not going to turn to Kenley Jansen, because personally, when I watch Kenley Jansen in a high leverage situation, I'm uncomfortable. I'm not confident that he's going to be able to get the job done, but they are going to make him the closer. He is going to have the ninth inning on a number of days, but it's going to be a mix and match thing. You're going to see Trinan in that role. You're going to see Gratterall. You're going to see Victor Gonzalez. You're going to see Knebel if he's healthy. You're going to see all of those guys be in that role. So I think people just need to stop freaking out that like, oh my God, it's going to be Kenley or bust and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not the way this team is set up. They're set up so that they could have pretty much anybody on any given night be that guy for them. And that's how they're going to operate.
I'm going to agree before Kevin, defends Kenley's honor here a little bit. It's totally fine to have him as the closer to start the season. He's earned that much at least. Like Jake said, there's going to be a mix and match role. I think you could see 5 to 7 guys getting saves this year for the Dodgers. I don't think they're going to just have one closer. I truly, truly don't. So is this move fine? Yeah. Who cares? The Dodgers are going to win 100 plus games. Who they have in what role to start the season means absolutely nothing. And we saw that last year when it came to the World Series. We didn't see Julio Urias closing games during the regular season. I don't think he did it once. And then in the playoffs, it was, it's Julio time to shut the door. So opening day closer, yeah, he deserves it. Just like Clayton Kershaw deserves to start opening day. It's ceremonial. That's about it. And is Kenley Jansen still serviceable? Yes. Is he what he used to be before Game 2 of the 2017 World Series? No. And Dave Roberts knows that. It's going to be a bit tough for our stomachs if he keeps trotting him out there when he's struggling. But when it comes down to it in the playoffs, can't believe I'm saying this, but after last year, I trust Dave Roberts.
I'm not there yet, but the amount of disrespect that Kenley Jansen is getting by a number of Dodger fans, it needs to stop. It needs to stop. People are treating this guy like he's some gas can thrower, like Brandon League, where every time Jansen's going to come into the game, something bad is going to happen. That's just not the case. Am I saying I want him to close out a World Series game, one run margin lead? No, I'm not going to go that far, but he's still a very serviceable reliever. Like David said, he's going to have some opportunities to close out games in April, May, and June. It's not going to matter. People are going to try to riot once he blows a save because it's inevitable. No one goes a season unless you're Eric Gagne where you don't blow a save. But Kenley Jansen was still one of the best relievers in baseball, if you believe it or not. He still had an ERA of 3. His FIP was about the same. of all pitchers in baseball, no one gave up less hard contact than Jansen. And, yes, Brandon Phillips had that fluke hit off him, but you know what that hit was? It was a fluke. I know it was probably right down the middle, and there's some questions with his velocity and the movement on the cutter. But Kenley Jansen, when he comes
more
in,
than just questions. Those are legitimate concerns.
but people don't want to talk about all the times he's on. He also dominated the Braves and was throwing 95 miles an hour. But no, we only want to talk about the bad.
That part is true for sure.
So with Kenley Jansen, I don't expect him to be the closer every day. As David said, there are a number of options, maybe more options than others. But Corey Knebel is definitely a guy I have my eye out on. Every person is raving about this guy. I expect him to be fully healthy, and I think he will run away with the closer role at some point this season. But obviously, Blake Trinan is still there too, and he's awesome. But people just got to stop freaking out when it's a 6-run lead and they put Jansen in to get some work, and then here they go on Twitter saying Jansen's going to blow it. It's just out of hand. He's the most established closer the Dodgers have ever had, and people treat him like dog poop.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is going to be on Dave Roberts. Like David was saying, this is on Dave Roberts to recognize how to use his players and how to put them in the best positions to succeed. We know Roberts has struggled with that in the past with Jansen and with Kershaw. So I think you have to look at that too. Look back at some of those moments where Jansen was brought in or when he was used for the 8th and the 9th inning. And historically, if you look at his numbers, he doesn't do well in those scenarios. And yet they went to him in those situations and he didn't come through. You have to be able to manage him correctly. And that is one of the keys that I'm going to be looking for early on.
Exactly. Is there any guys you wanted to talk about real quick in the bullpen before we do our final thoughts?
Nope.
No? Okay, well, I'll go real quick then. I think even though we lost a couple guys like Floro and Kolarek, this bullpen is still pretty stacked. And I think this 26-man roster, for the most part, there might only be 1 or 2 openings. I think we're going to need a second lefty in that bullpen, Victor Gonzalez being the one lock. I know I referred to Victor Rojas in the past as Victor Gonzalez, which I'm very embarrassed about. But Scott Alexander, that guy sucks. I know he's probably going to be the go-to option, but the guy
let's take it easy. He doesn't pitch that much.
He had a FIP of 5 one year and 6 the other. And he walked a key batter in the World Series that led to the Madsen home run. I hate that guy. But
that was all Dave Roberts. I'm sorry.
I don't think that's fair to Scott.
The guy you got to keep your eye out on is the lefty Alex Vesia. This guy is just flat out nasty, and just don't buy into what you saw with his brief sample size of the major leagues. We talked about it on the last episode, but the movement and vertical cutting on his fastball is just off the charts. And I expect him to be like a Brad Hand type of reliever in this bullpen very, very soon. Joe Kelly, I don't know what to say about him. He just seems to keep getting hampered with stuff, but I'm excited. We're going to see a number of different options as the season goes on. And even Brandon Morrow's coming back, happy to see him return. Injuries the last couple seasons derailed his career, but early on, Freeman and Morrow expressed mutual interest to return. So if he can have his 2017 resurgence with the Dodgers, definitely rooting for that. But we're running out of time here. Jake, what are your final thoughts to close it out?
Just real quick, the 3 storylines that I'm really looking forward to or keeping an eye on are Cody Bellinger's health, what Gavin Lux does when they start playing spring training games. Does he earn the job? And what are they going to do with this starting rotation? I'm very curious. Is it going to be a 5-man rotation, a 6-man rotation? Who's going to be in the bullpen? Those are the 3 storylines that I'm looking forward to. And I'm excited for Sunday.
All right, David, I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, I'm just mostly looking forward to the regular season, but spring training is going to be a super fun time to see how our young guys do, how the bullpen shapes up, what Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin roles are, and how they're going to round out this bench. So this is exciting times, and Sunday is going to be a fun day.
Thank you for listening to The Incline. Make sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Twitter at The Incline Pod, or follow all our social media handles, which you'll see in the description below. But we're really excited for spring training coming up, and we got some exciting things ahead. Look for us on Locker Room as well. download that app because you're going to see us on there a lot talking Dodgers. But everyone, have a great weekend and go Dodgers.